Testing, 1, 2. Hello, everybody. Can I get your attention for just a couple of minutes? So, my name is Dave Gonzalez. I appreciate you coming out to the AUSOME meetup. I'm really excited about our special guest speaker today. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a second. I'm actually pretty stoked. As I want to make sure and acknowledge our sponsor for the evening. We have two sponsors. One is Affiliate Summit, Sean Collins and Missy Ward that sponsor the food and the beer. So Sean's sometime here, but he's not here tonight. So next time you see Sean, make sure you thank him for the food and the booze. Second of all, obviously our gracious hosts, the Capital Factory. So thanks to Capital Factory for hosting us here at the AUSOME, this great environment. It's such a cool vibe here. Love working here. So before I announce our amazing guest speaker for tonight, I came up with this idea that I'm pretty stoked about. A lot of people know me as a super connector. I run another big network of entrepreneurs called the Internet Marketing Party, where we do we usually get 200, 300 people that come out and like get drunk and stand, we have somebody like Claire that comes and gets on stage and does a 20-minute TED Talks type speech and shares really cool stuff. I've been doing that for almost 8 years, and I realized recently that sometimes there's people that come out to the meetups and the community. I have no idea what they do. There's so many people that come out, and I can't talk to every single person. And even when I do talk to them, like if somebody tells you they're a copywriter or they're a CRO or there's an SEO expert, like are they good? Do they suck? Are they starting out? Are they like best in class? And so I started brainstorming on how could I start to curate the community that I'm building, both at Internet Marketing Party as well as here, as well as my affiliate management agency, as well as one of my passions is building relationship with really talented and influential people. And a lot of times when somebody like Claire reaches out to me and they're like, hey, do you know someone who, fill in the blank, like a project manager, a co-founder even, whatever. A lot of times it's kind of overwhelming to think of all the people I know. So I'm starting this thing where I'm going to start, every time I run an event or a meetup or something, I'm going to ask people to fill this in so that I can start a database and really start getting an idea of who's who. And I've got some cool ideas about what I can do with this down the road. But for now, I want to just, first of all, this is the first time I've shared this with anybody. So I kind of feel like I'm unveiling this brainchild that I have. Does it make sense? Like when you look at it intuitively? Yes?
It took me like 7 minutes, but now I
Oh man, 7 minutes. I appreciate the honesty, I really do. But you get it now? So, I mean, this is like, I just whipped this up like in an hour. So here's the skill categories, like are you an affiliate manager versus a JV manager, an affiliate network expert, big data expert, business broker, call center expert, a CRO, copywriter. So those are like, of all the things that you do in the digital marketing space, like what's your number one skill? If you were saying, I'm better at this than anything, write that. And if you're like, oh, I don't know between this or that, then pick the number one, just flip a coin, pick the number one, and then the number two, put that there. And then per skill, so like for Claire, I would say she's a CRO, maybe a co-founder, tech, what would you put?
was just trying to decide. Product's not on here, like a product manager.
Product manager. Wow, that's great. So, I mean, but no, I say it's great because like it's counterintuitive. I would have thought to put you down as a founder or a CTO or a.
Well, you put me down as a CEO, but I'm not going to be like the best CEO.
Yeah.
Like number
point.
2 or 3.
Sorry. Okay. So anyway, I know there's gonna be some bumps in the road until I get. This is a version 1, so I appreciate you playing with me and so. What would you?
Let's just put CRO.
CRO. Okay, so CRO. I mean, if you're working. All right, so CRO, and I just decided to keep it real simple. Rank beginner, intermediate, or advanced. I
think I'm advanced.
Yeah, advanced. So you'd be a 3. So you'd circle the little 3, and then vetted. Your loner or relatively unknown would be number 1. Number 2 would be
I
growing.
think we're like a 2.5.
No, come on.
Yeah.
You're.
Well, me.
Oh, you.
I'm a 4, but.
Oh, you mean the company?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about you as an individual. So
I recognize it. Yeah, I'd say I'm a 3.
yeah, so you're a 3, and then the aggressiveness as a marketer, because let's face it. Yeah, so like some people are like straight up black hat. They're like, as long as I don't get caught, I'm gonna do it. And then there's people that are real direct response, like they're emailing people every day, and they're like, buy, and then, but you know, they still get the job done. And then there's people who understand that branding and the customer experience matters more, and that's how they. So you're 3, right? So boom, and then.
I leave the 1 and 2 to other people on my team.
Yeah. So, okay, so if everybody take the time to fill that in, it would mean the world to me. One of the things I'm thinking about doing with this is when you need somebody that you're looking for, either as in your company or to hire or to train, and like somebody you want to build up. So it's not always you're going to want a 3. Sometimes you want somebody that's an aspiring person or something like that. So if you would fill that in, I'll collect those, or while my assistant here will collect those at the end. Mean the world to me. All right. So with that, how did that end up there? Deadpool. It's a great movie. It keeps doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we don't really need it anymore. I just wanted you guys to have an example. So I want to say a couple things about Claire. I heard about Claire from Pep Laya that runs Conversion XL, and Chris Mercer that's spoken here at AUSOME before. And I was like, I had an internet marketing party speaker who was building out a product that she wanted help with on the WP, on the plugin side of things and theme design. And Mercer, one of the things I do for our guest speakers at Internet Marketing Party, because a lot of times they fly in from around the country on their own dime, and you know, it's just like we don't let them pitch or sell anything, but they do it because it's been something that's kind of like this underground community that's been building over time, and people just want to give back. And so one of the ways that I give back to our speakers is I say, hey, what's your biggest challenge or your biggest problem or opportunity in your business? And whatever they answer, I curate a group of the 12 smartest people I know, and I get people in there like Noah Kagan, Jason Cohen from WP Engine, or Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer, and I'll invite you. Like, it's a cool thing because from 1:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon, there's 12 of us. We get in a nice, cool, like scenic conference room, and we just like help that person. I'm an EO alum, so I took the idea from the EO forums or monthly forums, and just help people. And it's really neat because everybody in the room gets to see how everyone else thinks really creatively and on the spot. And you find out who's like really, really sharp and how they think. And a lot of networking is done there. And so I was told, I was looking for a group of people that could help. It was Erica Douglas. Yeah, and it was for her think tank. And Chris Mercer had just seen you speak at Conversion XL. He's like, dude, I saw this Claire Vo woman speak. She was amazing. Like, and she's here in Austin. I'd never heard of her. And I was like, bam. And I don't know if any of you know Mercer. He's spoken here. He comes to the AUSOME meetups pretty regularly. In fact, the only reason he couldn't be here tonight is he missed the meetup announcement and had scheduled an appointment with Eamon from AppSumo to talk some business. And so he's like, he wanted me to say hi. But anyway, Mercer's one of those people that's very, very even-keeled and doesn't use a lot of hyperbole or doesn't rave about people a lot, but he got pretty enthusiastic about inviting you to this meetup, to this think tank, and I was like, damn, Mercer gets excited about her, then I'll invite her to that. And then I looked up your LinkedIn and I saw that you had started Experiment Engine, and I looked at some of the clients that Experiment Engine has. Does everybody know who Jessica Alba is? No, she started a company called The Honest Company. The Honest Company. So they work with The Honest Company. They work with UnderArmour. They work with, I could just put a. It's kind of like a. You walk down the aisles at any major store, and they're working with some of the big names like that. But then I asked Claire. I was like, man, I've been crazy busy this afternoon. I was like, can you send me some information that I could? And she's like, oh, I don't know what I could. So I dug and I looked and I found out some really cool things that I was like, wow, I knew you were cool, but check this out. So, and I'm not trying to embarrass her. I just want to make sure you pay real close attention and you recognize the caliber and the amazingness of talent that you're about to learn from. So, because anybody can come up here and like this thing, right? Anybody can just come up and go like, oh, I'm pretty smart. I took a couple classes at UT on digital marketing. I don't know why, that's weird. But she went through TechStars in 2014, right before the program ended, a few months earlier, and it was she was both CEO and technical. She's both CEO and technical co-founder, and built a lot of the platform herself, starting with their growing dev team. And when they started EE, there were a couple of cool things that they did, like working with UShip and Build a Sign. I mean, before she started there, before she started EE, she led online experience for electronic arts, EA, and gamers in the house, working with games like FIFA, or FIFA, and Battlefield. So many soccer fans, like, it's crazy. And after quitting there, she started at Experiment Engine and moved to Hong Kong to teach product management for General Assembly and run a startup accelerator for a venture fund there. So, like, I mean, it's crazy because it looks like you just got out of high school. Yeah, I mean, you do it great. So it's a lot of stuff you've done. So with that, let's give it up for Claire Rowe.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna, oh, I should have got a clicker. That's fine. I can stand up here and lecture you like a professor. It'll be really fun. We're working. How's everybody doing? So much energy. You guys had a snack, I can tell, like
Good.
digesting.
Oh, is that your background?
Yeah, it makes me feel very summery.
It is very similar.
Yeah, I like it. My other background is avocado, so I'm just like a hungry person. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I am not just out of high school. God, I wish. That's really nice. Ooh, it's just going just because. Whew, that's just cycling through. Let's figure out why. I'm Claire Vo. I am the CEO, technical co-founder of Experiment Engine. We are a, let's see, there we go. So Experiment Engine helps make A/B testing super easy for companies like UnderArmour and Sightly, The Honest Company, Inbound.org, which probably you guys hang out a lot on if you're in online marketing. And we basically help teams build next-gen conversion optimization programs that scale. So my co-founder and I have worked at a lot of places here in Austin, worked at UShip together, worked at Build a Sign together. He was most recently at Indeed.com with all their amazing success. I was at Electronic Arts, and we kind of always wanted to do more A/B testing than we actually were. And so we started Experiment Engine as a way to solve some of the problems that we commonly saw people run into when they were either starting or growing their conversion optimization program. So lots of experience in A/B testing, lots of experience running lots and lots of tests, and really excited to tell you guys about how to build a super amazing conversion optimization program. So before I get started, how many people are actually doing A/B testing at their current jobs or not jobs? I know you are. And just as a shout out, like how many tests per month are the people that are testing doing? Louise is like 100, so he doesn't get to answer. Anybody else? Half a dozen. Okay, good. So if you're doing at least more than one a month, you're a little more advanced, but it sounds like most of you guys aren't doing conversion optimization, so I'm just gonna give a kind of a high level of what it is, why I think it's important to do, and then I'm gonna dive into some organizational process and then operational things that I think help people build really awesome conversion optimization programs. We're a small group. I'll leave time for questions at the end, but if you want to stop and ask me about anything, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. So before we start, just a very high level of what A/B testing is. I know it's simple, you guys probably already know, but sometimes people don't. So A/B testing is a way to sort of validate hypotheses about experience changes on your website. So the way it works is you basically random split your population of visitors into 2 or more segments. You send them to an A version or a B version. You track some sort of metric. In this case, it's purchases of tiny gifts wrapped in red wrapping paper. So you'll look at your purchase conversion rate, and then you will call one of them a winner. So it's just sort of a data-backed way to validate things around design, copy, experience, sometimes technology and speed, and a way that a lot of really high-growth companies end up getting the success that they get. And so conversion optimization is really an effective tool But it's more than just kind of a tool in your toolbox. It really is a process that you have to build. So the best conversion optimization programs really come out of this cycle. They start with data. So before you can do any A/B testing or CRO, it's super important to make sure that you have your data in place. You can actually understand the current behavior of your visitors and really understand where are the levers or opportunities to improve. That data then gets turned into hypotheses. So it's just like running a fun science experiment. You get to look at your data and hypothesize what would make your a certain metric do better. So a good example of that is you could look at your e-commerce site and say, there is a huge 60% fallout between my cart and my checkout flow. So people have put something in my cart and they're not continuing to check out. And that's a piece of data, and that could turn into a hypothesis saying, shipping is really expensive on my site, and the cart is the first place that people get shipping information. So my hypothesis is our shipping is too expensive, and that's causing people to fall out on the cart. And the way I can test this, going to the next step, is I'll hide shipping until the next step and see, do I actually push more people down the funnel until they see shipping? Like, is shipping really the lever that decreases my conversion rate? So you build this hypothesis. It's usually in the format of, if we do X, Y will happen as measured by Z. So that's a good way to build your hypothesis, is saying, if we do something, some other thing will change, positive or negative, and we'll measure it in a specific way. Then you go to testing. So you test it using that the process that I showed you, or a more complicated version of that process. And then you analyze the results, and that analysis goes right back into data. So this is a really effective process to go through, but what you'll find in reality is that running that process and doing conversion rate optimization is actually pretty challenging. Like, in theory, you're like, yes, I'll look at my data all the time and I'll build all these hypotheses and I'll test and it'll be so easy and so amazing. But what we find is that's really easy when you're doing 1 test a month. It's like not that hard when you're doing 4 tests a month, but a lot of teams stall out at like 5, 6, 7 tests a month. Pushing to 10 gets really hard. Getting to 50 is impossible. And then we see teams trying to go from 50 to 250 tests a month, and it's like they hit a brick wall. And so what I'm here to talk about is some of the things that I think make you more effective at kind of building that amazing program that can scale with you. But before I go into that in more detail, I just kind of want to talk about why I think at a high level conversion rate optimization, other than the fact that it can validate your hypotheses and drive your business growth, is really effective. And why you should do it, like why 80% of you should start doing it if you're not doing it already. The first thing is, more than it gets you money, which it does, it always makes you money, is it helps cultivate data-driven decision-making in your team. So how many of you work in teams where like some of the decisions are made emotionally? Oh, come Louise, raise your hand. You work for me. Come on. Some of the decisions are made emotionally. It's just like a fact of working with humans, is decision making is going to be made emotionally. I do this other presentation. It's like the emotional decisions of your data-driven team, which is just like every team, almost especially the ones that are convinced that they're data-driven, make emotional decisions. And those decisions are based on assumptions. They're based on biases. They're based on like your internal desires and ego. And so A/B testing is one of those ways that you can really try to cultivate a true data-driven decision-making process in your team. It's not always effective at making it 100% data-driven, but that I think is one of the main benefits of building a really good CRO program. The second thing that people don't really think about when they're thinking about conversion rate optimization, how to build an amazing program, is they always think about, it can increase my purchases, it can increase my conversion rate, it can make me more money. But they don't really think about the opposite, which is it can really save you a lot of money. So how many of you have redesigned your website in the last year? How many of those got tested? So just a few. So like, we see this all the time. People redesign their whole website, launch it, and their conversion rate tanks like 10%. And what I think people don't realize about CRO is it can really de-risk new investments that you make in the business. So by doing a data-driven validation of these design changes, you can actually avoid over-investing in things that aren't actually improving your customer experience. So the best thing that happens out of a redesign is that increase your conversion rate. The most common thing that happens that we see is it decreases your conversion rate. But kind of an equally worse thing that happens is that it's flat. So you've spent all these resources, all this energy, all this time, 9 months redesigning a site, and it's just not better. It looks better, it makes people feel better, but you have to really look at it and say, is that investment worth making me feel better? So I think one of the things about really great conversion optimization programs versus basic ones is they don't just look at the growth attribution of their CRO program, they look at the de-risking and the cost savings out of their CRO program as well. And then finally, I think when done right, it delivers predictable, regular results. And so one of the things I see that's very different between basic conversion optimization programs and advanced conversion rate optimization programs is that the basic ones feel like the results are random. So you get wins, you get losses, bosses feel really great when there's a win, bosses kind of think testing is stupid when there's a loss. And it feels like it's not a consistent driver for your business. Like SEM feels like a consistent driver for your business. You know, if you pay money, you're gonna get traffic, and that traffic's gonna turn into something. When you think about CRO, when you pay money in the form of running a test, you're not really guaranteed a return necessarily on that single test. But I think when you do it right, when you do it regularly, when you maximize your testing velocity, you can actually predictably get good results and drive growth month over month and year over year in your CRO program. And the way we see teams do that is by not giving up, testing all the time, testing as much traffic as they can, and looking at the testing program as an overall investment as opposed to a test-by-test tactic. So those are the 3 things that I think really great CRO programs do for your business. And so I'm going to talk to you about how to build one of those. So how to do this. And I'm going to grab my water. Thanks. So this is my process. Oh, that's a lot of noise. So this is my high-level process of how to do CRO, which ends with all processes, how they should end in profit. So these are the things that I think you need to do to build a powerhouse optimization program. It starts with culture, as all things. I'm going to convince you guys all you're not data-driven, and how you can actually get data-driven, and then goes through sort of the testing process and how to share success. So I'm going to walk through some of the ways that you can build this process internal to your organization to make it very effective. So first, building a testing culture. So the first thing I think you have to do when you're building a testing culture, just like I said, admit it, you guys aren't all that data-driven, you make emotional decisions, is admit you're guessing. Just straight out admit that you're guessing when you redesign things and that you're pretty bad at it. So this is a test that we did for Map My Fitness. It was a redesign of their upsell page in their app. And just, I'm not going to tell you which one was the control, which one was the test. How many people think the one on the left did better? So okay, one person. How many people think the one on the right did better? Okay, so it's just, you guys have no data about this company. You have no data about their performance. You have no information. What that essentially is a guess. And the change in these things, we can say, oh, we think this or that or whatever, but essentially when you're making redesigns, a lot of times you're guessing. So actually the one on the left won, so back in the corner, awesome. And this is one of the most effective things to do when you're first running a test, is like just run somebody's idea. Like say like, hey, if you had to change anything about our website, what would you change? Just guess what would make it better, and run it. And like a lot of times that loses. And so what that does is really validate internally to the organization, like we don't always know what we're talking about, and we don't always know what's better, and sometimes we're guessing. So I think the first thing you have to do when you're building a testing culture is like really get people to admit sometimes they just don't know. And the data can show you one way or the other, but guessing isn't always the most effective way to build product. So once you've gotten people to admit they're making kind of presumptions, and sometimes this can be hard, and sometimes it can be easy. The next step is to recruit unlikely allies by making data accessible. So when you're starting a CRO program, some of your biggest people that will object to CRO are executives and designers. Like those are the 2 people that get really offended by Zero. And I'll tell you why. It's because they know what's right. Like, they intuitively know what's right for the brand. They're geniuses, so they know what should change on the website. And for designers, they feel really tied to how the product looks and feels, and they've been trained to make really great product decisions that build great user experiences. And so whenever you do something to test what they're doing, they can become kind of defensive about it. And that can really put a roadblock in your testing program. And so I always say, like, you can get analysts behind A/B testing, you can get growth hackers behind A/B testing, you usually get marketing behind A/B testing. You have to get your unlikely allies into A/B testing, which is the design team and the executive team. And the way you do that is by empowering everybody across the organization with data, especially designers. So, you know, I go to a designer, this happened a lot, where we would say we want to change the product, it's not converting right, you know, blah, 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 blah. And they would say, no, but this is the most perfect button, it's in the most beautiful place, and it can never be better, and blah, blah, blah. And so what we did is we said, look, we're going to give you the opportunity to put data and money behind what you do. So like everybody else in the organization gets to say they make money, now design gets to say they make money too. And so by giving them access to the performance of their actual designs, they actually got really excited about conversion optimization, and they were less threatened by it. And so when design becomes your ally, then you become a lot faster at A/B testing, you get a lot more resources, and you get to test more interesting things. And I think the way to do that really is just to be very transparent with data across the organization. Don't say, oh, they're just they're just whatever organization. They don't need to see the results. They're just kind of a piece in the puzzle. Or, you know, data only needs to be passed to marketing, or data only should be accessible to this product manager. Really making it transparent across the organization cultivates that culture and makes everybody excited about testing. So the next thing I like to say is don't kill the hippos. So who knows what a hippo is? Okay, 2 people. It's the highest paid person's opinion. So people always say the hippo is what crushes my testing program. Like, I want to test something, but the CMO says, no, that's stupid, or the CMO says, no, test this instead. And there's all these blog posts on how to kill hippos, like how to hunt them down and shoot them and all this stuff. You don't want to kill hippos. They pay your bills, they hire you, they promote you. Like, don't kill the hippo. You don't want to take them out. Maybe you want to become one at some point. So what you need to do is disarm your hippos. So you need to make them less dangerous. And the way you make them less dangerous is you make it part of a competitive game. So a lot of times, you know, I used to work for this VP at some unnamed place, and he would always, like, he told me, like, Claire just loves testing. She just loves it. It's like her favorite thing. It's like her baby. It's her, and he just thought I was an insane person that just wanted to test all the time and couldn't make like intuitive, smart decisions. He just thought I like lacked a strategic capability to just definitively know what was right. And so what we did is we built this like competitive structure between everybody in the organization and would like build a leaderboard of winning ideas and put him on it. So we like, you know, well, I almost said his name. So-and-so will definitely test what you want. We'll definitely build it. It's going to go to the top of the list, but we're going to just test it really quickly because we want to build this leaderboard, and it's a kind of a fun cultural thing. And he got super competitive and really, really started to want to test after that. And so it sort of disarmed this like hippo thing by making him part of the crew. And like all he would say now is, when he had an idea, he'd be like, let's test it. Can we put mine? I'll put it in. Like, I want to do it. It's my thing. And it just made him very competitive and also really excited about the testing program. So that's kind of at a high level how to do organizational culture structure stuff. Give the data to everybody, make people competitive, disarm hippos, don't kill them. But the next thing you have to do when building a conversion optimization program, and this is totally not working, it's just frozen.
Is it your machine or is it?
It's the AirPlay.
AirPlay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was wondering why. Lobsters.
It was doing
There
that
we go.
with mine too. It was kicking me off for some reason.
So now you have this hyper-competitive, transparent data culture that's amazing. What you do next is you have to choose your testing stack. So What I'd like to say is CRO takes more than just a tool. That's sort of our overall philosophy about A/B testing at Experiment Engine, is that you can buy a tool, you can invest in something like Optimizely, Visual Website Optimizer, Target or Monetate if you're made of gold, and that's great. But you can, you can buy a hammer, but if you don't build anything with that hammer, it's kind of useless. And I think that's how I think about conversion rate optimization tools. There's definitely easy ways to pick the right tool for your use case. Everything from a free option to spending tens of thousands of dollars a month. But you need more than a tool, and your stack needs to be more than that one piece of technology. So what I think you need in terms of your CRO stack is people, technology, and process. So people absolutely drive your testing program. The technology enables you to do CRO, and then your process keeps you going and lets you scale it. And so you have to think about solving those three problems when you're building a true conversion optimization program in order for it to really grow with your business. And that's Experiment Engine if you need it as part of your stack. So things to think about in terms of your CRO stack and what you need beyond sort of an A/B testing tool is how will you get the data in the first place? What analytics tools will we use to drive my tests or hypotheses? How will we capture testing ideas? How will those ideas be prioritized? What will we use to collaborate across this now very engaged team from the top to the bottom? How will we run tests? So 5 is like the first time you even think about the technology. How will we archive test results? And then how will reports be shared? And so you have to solve all of these problems in order to really build a conversion rate optimization program. Most A/B testing tools only solve 5. So really thinking about how are you going to fill the gaps between all these pieces in order to run that full circle of CRO is really, really important. Next, you need to select and nurture your team. So I'd like to think about building a CRO team in sort of 2 ways. The first are just skills you need on your CRO team. And so we could probably put some of these skills on your little matrix of skills and get people ranked on these things. So if you think about that process, the skills that you need on your conversion rate optimization program team, analysis, clearly data analysis, project management to manage everything, design, development, QA. These are all, and then strategy is actually not on here, but it should be strategy or product management is on here. These are all skills you need on your CRO team. They're pretty easy to find most places. But what I think is more important is traits or characteristics you need on your CRO team. So you can get a designer, but if you get a really egotistical designer, they become a huge roadblock in your conversion rate optimization program. So the things that I think need to be part of your CRO team from a trait perspective are things like being ego-free, very important. 90% of tests, 70% of tests lose, so you just have to let go of ego. Curious, so really just kind of curious about how things perform, interested in seeing the results. Creative is obviously very important, data-driven, very important. I think resiliency is super critical in a CRO team. I think resiliency is actually the #1 driver of success in conversion rate optimization programs. We see so many programs get off the ground and then give up after 4 or 5 losses. And I think the resiliency of being able to get through failed tests is really critical in order to get past that wall of 5 or 6 tests a month and build to a conversion rate optimization program that's delivering millions of dollars for your business every year. And then finally, I think being a storyteller. So there's 2 ways to convey results with a conversion rate optimization program. You can send an Excel spreadsheet of data, which is really boring and nobody gets excited about it. Or you can tell stories about your CRO program. And I see people that tell stories about their testing program become so much more effective than those who don't. So a good example of this is HomeAway. Anybody here work at HomeAway? Okay, so if I tell a complete lie, it won't be called out. No, from what I heard about HomeAway is they have this all hands every month or every week, and they do a test of the week story, and there's a song related to it. So it's test of the week. I don't know what the song is. So it's something really good like that, test of the week, and there's I don't know, lights come on or whatever. But then somebody gets up and tells this huge story about who came up with the idea and how they tested it and what the data was. And this builds this really tight-knit testing culture where everybody's excited to participate and everybody kind of wants to be the next test of the week. So storytelling is a really important trait for your CRO program. And then I think you need to nurture your CRO team. And what I think that means is there's never a loser. Like, there are tests that will perform poorly, but I think as a culture, if you really want to nurture that resilient team, you really have to look at every test as a learning opportunity and look at everything as if there's never a loser. And so 90% of tests, this is no lie, we look at thousands and thousands of tests every year, 90% of tests have no positive impact. So that means they either bomb your conversion rate or they're just flat. And if I told you, hey, I want to put you on this team, and like 90% of the time, nothing happens and you fail. Like, come join this team, it's gonna be amazing. It's very hard to get people excited about that. But if you put somebody on a team and you say, hey, I want to put you on this team, every day is an opportunity to learn something more about our users. Every test we run, win, lose, or inconclusive, we get data out of that's really interesting. We're always growing and building our experience. That can get people really excited about testing, and those are the types of teams that really build awesome tests. Because they have to get over this sort of data, which is this old curve of test results, which basically says, like, from here down are losses, and from here up are wins. And so, like, most of them decrease conversion rate, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50, whatever. And like, there's a good bunch that are flat, but then if you look at these like ones that increase 150% or 210% or 300%, you can start to see that those losses really don't matter in the context of your overall testing program. So you could say, hey, actually this is a true story. I worked at BuildASign. We had a pretty good testing culture, and I went an entire year. It was 9 months. I ran a test every month for 9 months, and every single one of them dropped our conversion rate. Every single one, 9 months in a row. I had this genius, I was like heading up product, I had this awesome team, we like would sit down and we're like, oh, genius idea, let's do it. Put it on the site, test it. Down 30%. Like, oh, that's okay, we learned something, next site. Increase, like, here's a genius idea. I did this for 9 months in a row. It was the most depressing, like one of the most depressing times in my professional career, because I got so excited about these tests and they would lose. And then the last one we did increased conversion rate like 35%. Data was super solid. It like paid for my team times 5. Like, it was amazing and perfect, and did everything for our program. And so you just really have to know that and nurture your CRO team and really build into the philosophy of the organization truly that losses don't matter, because they're always a learning opportunity. The next thing, my team always makes fun of me for this, but it's fine. You have to shoot for twofers. So what a twofer is, in my mind, is, ideally with a test, you want to get a conversion rate gain. So ideally, number one, you want to make more money. But you want to also get a learning. So you want to get like a twofer. That's like the thing you want to shoot for. And so there are ways you can maximize your opportunity for this, and then there are ways you can decrease your opportunity for this. So you decrease your opportunity. So this is a very old landing page of Experiment Engine. I don't think it's up anymore. But let's say we wanted to test to make this page better. And so I, being a designer, was like, hey, let's put a real number in our headline, and I'm gonna add click to call on our contact information, and look how much prettier this teal is, and I made our subline better, and then I said our call to action has urgency, so it doesn't say just sign up, it says like convert more today. And so I do all these things, and then let's just say it wins. That's great, but I don't learn anything. Like, I don't know which of these things actually increase my conversion rate, so I don't know where to invest on this page further. I don't know how to get that next win, and the win after that, and I know how to maximize it. And so I've really only gotten one thing out of my test where I really should have gotten 2. So the best way to shoot for twofers is building incremental, measurable tests that are built around a single theme or hypothesis. So what you want to do is, you don't want to say, your hypothesis can't be, if I make the page better, it will do better. Like, that's a terrible hypothesis. But what you can say is, if I do a numbers-focused landing page where I convey with numbers the actual measurable increase I make for our clients, that will convey more trust in our product, and that will make more people submit. And so I do numbers throughout this whole thing. I say 300% and 4x ROI and blah, blah, That is a measurable thing, because when that wins or when that loses, I get the win, hopefully, and I get the learning. I get to know, yeah, numbers are important to my users, or they're not important. So always shoot for twofers. Try to do incremental tests, because you can learn. I mean, Louise, how many times have we redesigned an entire page and it loses it because a client wants, and it loses and they ask us why? Dozens. And what's your answer?
How do we know?
How do we know? So it's really, really important. It's something that the best teams do better. I mean, one of our best clients runs 100 headline tests a month, and just headline with underline, headline in red, headline in blue, headline with a dollar sign. And every time they get a win, you know exactly what it did. And it's really, really powerful. So then we're getting to the end. I think all of this really enables you to always be testing. And so I just want to talk about Puppy Bowl for a little bit. Talk about Puppy Bowl. So you guys are all new. Most of you are new to A/B testing, conversion rate optimization. When you do your first test, I say that brand new testing teams are just like Puppy Bowl. So you've run your first tests, you've integrated your testing tool, you've had conversion wins. So like Puppy Bowl, you're at the Puppy Bowl stadium, you have your uniform on, you have little I think they're cat cheerleaders. You sometimes grab the ball and run through the goal, and it's really cute. Sometimes you get your win, but they tire easily, they fall asleep in the water bowl, they get distracted, they run off the field. And that's what I see a lot of starting programs look like. They get their first win, and then they're like, oh yeah, I have another job. I'm gonna go over here and do this. Or they get tired. They get 3 losses in a row, and they're like, I don't want to test anymore. I'm out of ideas. I want to take a nap, a puppy nap. And so it's great. It's fun. Puppy Bowl's cute. I watch it every year. But this is not what you want your testing program to look like. This is what you want your testing program to look like. You want your testing program to look like a well-trained agility dog. It's slightly less adorable, I guess, depending on your puppy preferences, but it will definitely make you more money. Puppy Bowl, they just get adopted and get advertising money. These dogs will bank you some cash. So you really want to think about, how can I evolve my program from Puppy Bowl to fancy agility dog? And there's a couple ways you can do that. So the first is you have to increase both quantity, quality, and coverage of your testing program. So what that means, and I give a whole presentation basically on this slide, but what that means is it's not just running better tests, it's running more tests, and it's running more tests across more areas of your site. And in order to really mature past that 1 test a month or 1 test a week period, or cadence, you really have to figure out, how can I push how many tests I'm doing, what the quality of the tests I'm doing is, and then how many different devices or audiences can I test across. And so the best programs can really do this and push these numbers effectively, and the most excellent programs actually measure the quantity, quality, and coverage of their tests in these very fancy reports, and set goals for that. So they don't just set goals for, I want a win every month, or I want to increase my conversion rate 20%. They say, I want to increase my testing velocity 10% month over month for a year. Or I want to make sure that I'm testing 70% of all traffic that goes live has a test on it. And those are really the measures of a very powerful testing program, and those are the things that we see push people into running very sophisticated programs. And I think the other thing is just understanding that by pushing those 3 things, that's what really gets results. So we did all this data analysis on tens of thousands of tests, and we found the number 1 driver of your conversion rate increase was how consistently you test and how much coverage you have on your testing program. So test teams that run 1 test a month sporadically are the yellow, and they'll get very small increases in their conversion rate over time. The red is they scale between 1 test a month and 4 tests a month, but they kind of just do it ad hoc and they don't have consistency to it. And then the blue is testing 2 times a week consistently for a year. And just that velocity and the number of tests they run and measuring that is the number 1 predictor of how high your conversion rate is going to grow in a year. So, some of you might be limited to how many tests you can do by traffic, but for those that aren't, you should really think about pushing up your testing velocity, because that will by and far increase your conversion rate more than anything else you can do with your testing program. And then, you know, we talk to a lot of people that have done testing for a year or two, and they say, you know, I'm just getting diminishing returns on my testing program. I got these like 30% wins when I first started, and now I'm not really getting those anymore. My boss is kind of asking me why we're doing this anymore. Isn't our website perfect? And I just want everybody, that's another puppy. I want everybody to know the true cause of diminishing returns in your testing program in year 2 or year 3. It really is diminished effort. We see this almost all the time. People test for a year, then they test a little less, or they flatten out in the number of testing, and they start to get diminishing returns. But if they maximize the amount of testing that they're doing by measuring it and improving it, that diminished returns, or that ceiling on the returns from your testing efforts, really goes away. And then finally, this is really easy. As with all things, like just share your success. So sell your CRO story. So go beyond sharing that spreadsheet, really making it exciting, making it a song, making it branded, and showing people what the hypothesis was and what the full story of the testing program was. Really gets people from the top down excited about testing. Of course, you can build really fancy reports and make, you know, some people like this, some people like this story. Sharing both data and sort of quantitative feedback about your test is a really effective way to get people involved in your testing program. And the more a team is involved in a testing program across the company, the more effective we've seen it be. And finally, profit in green, so you can buy all those show dogs. And so this is again how to CRO. Start with building a testing culture. Choose your stack. It's not just technology, it's process and people too. Nurture that team, select them for the right traits, and then give them sort of the cushion to fail. Always be testing, and then measure how much you're always testing, and then be a really effective storyteller in terms of sharing your success. If you do all that along this curving line, I can guarantee that you guys will profit. We've seen this work a million times over. So that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you. In the back, I saw a blue shirt.
I have 3. I'll ask one and wait
Yeah.
to see how many questions you have. Let me actually go with the one related to the last thing you said about diminishing returns.
Yep.
You know, it makes me think about, I do usability testing,
Mhm.
which is a cousin of sorts. But I think about discernible patterns, because that's one thing we recognize as we do these over and over at different clients. So when you said the returns were diminishing on the testing, when you're looking at continuously testing the cost of the software, the
Yep.
cost of the staff, at some point, don't you get discernible patterns that are successful when you look at like a conversion button or a juxtaposition of an image with the button? And
So yes and no. I think people think that's true, assuming the website or the user experience is the only variable. So the reason why we say always be testing is we presume that your website isn't just the only thing that comes into play with your conversion rate. The other thing that we see, channels change to your website, your marketing mix changes, customer expectations evolve too. So year over year, say you're an e-commerce site, new paradigms for shopping come up where like maybe a year ago people weren't thinking, hey, I can get, not that I do this, like, hey, I can get toilet paper delivered to me in 1 hour by Amazon now. And now that's like a paradigm in their brain when they shop. That wasn't there a year ago when you built your ideal conversion funnel. And so what you have to think is when you always be testing is, maybe my website is perfect for my visitors when I was testing, but have those visitors change, and what has changed about them, not just where they're coming from, but what have they experienced on the web that may make them less performant on this current funnel than they were maybe a year ago. And I think the only way you can verify that is by continually testing and verifying, yep, we're still at that like top level of it, or no, hey, we can learn something, there's something new that customers are ticking off of now that maybe changed in the marketing mix or maybe changed in their expectations. So like in some ways it's true, but in other ways like you're just presuming there's a lot more static about your business than I think is realistic.
so if the customer does have a fairly static business, say B2B, working in the same industries over and over,
Yep.
they may not have that. And when you talk about always be testing,
Mhm.
would you at some point flatten out the testing perhaps if you find that you're not getting a lot of tests that are increasing conversion?
Yeah, so I am more than anybody, I'm a big proponent of ROI measuring, of A/B testing. So we've built a lot of models to say like, most people just say, do testing, it'll do well for you, and I know that was basically my presentation. But testing does have a cost. The tool has a cost, the people have a cost, there's an opportunity cost involved with doing testing versus doing something else. You don't have infinite resources. I would definitely measure my maximum velocity of my testing program. How much can I be testing? When I test, how often do I win? And when it wins, how much does it give for my business, to build what we call an expected value model for your testing? And then really say, like, I'm investing $5,000 per test. Am I getting $5,000 per test out, given a year-long average? The answer is no. Like, don't test, spend that money somewhere else. For a lot of customers, it's yes. They just have to be able to stomach like 10 of those tests being lost. Yeah, no problem. It's an interesting problem. Yep.
For somebody who's sort of early on in starting a business and
Yep.
you know, starting to grow traffic and that sort of thing, conceptually, obviously, the concept of this applies to various sizes, but there's also obviously some idea of like what is a critical data set.
Yep.
How would you? What comments would you have around that?
So I always say conversion optimization is a lot better at iteration than it is at innovation. So like, we're a startup, don't tell anybody. We can like do very limited A/B testing. Because we don't have the traffic, we can't do data set stuff. Like, we can do big swags and like try to see. But yeah, you have to have kind of a critical level of data to make really statistically driven decisions. For us, that tends to be around 10 or 20,000 visitors per month with like a decent above 1% conversion rate.
To the test.
Yeah, to your site,
Or just
usually.
the site in general?
Usually to your site, with at least a above 1% conversion rate. If somebody comes to us and they're like, get 5,000 visitors a month and a conversion rate is like 0.5%, your problem is not iteration, it's like, what's your business model and are you communicating that effectively? And it would be hard to measure through A/B testing. So there's definitely a floor, but that's the floor on on-site optimization. You have a lot more opportunity to do A/B testing in like your paid channels. So if you're doing Facebook headline testing, SEM headline testing, you can start to get information about what might be effective on-site in those channels that give you a little more traffic. So at the top of the funnel. Any other questions? Yes.
3 questions.
Yes.
One, I'll list them out. You can answer in your
Okay.
whatever. Or 1, what kind of dog do you have?
Mhm.
2, what can you explain more about Experiment Engine?
Yeah.
And what can we as a group, I mean, even if it's not directly, help you and Experiment Engine with? Like, what's something you guys are, I mean, whether it's looking for a resource or more clients or whatever. So whatever.
That's 2 questions. Is that it?
No, I
You had a
said-
3rd one.
No, I should talk more about Experiment Engine.
Okay.
Like, cause you
Got it.
hinted at it and there's like,
3.
you weren't
Okay.
sure if it was okay to pitch.
Dog is going to be the first one. I have 2 dogs. One is a Boston Terrier, Fira. She is 6. And then one is an 11-year-old pit lab mix from, it used to be Town Lake Animal Center, and now it's Austin Pets Alive. They're both black and white. People ask me if they're related. They're completely differently sized dogs. And they're fabulous, and they will never make me any money. They are not even puppies, so they can't even be puppy bowl, and they are not smart enough to be agility trained. So they're just dogs for cuddling. Experiment
straight
Engine.
cuddle.
Yeah, they're just straight cuddle dogs. They're kind of worthless.
There's value. There's
There's
startups.
a value. There's stress relief for me. So Experiment Engine. So Experiment Engine helps companies at 2 stages with their conversion rate optimization programs. We help teams build conversion rate optimization programs to get them off the ground, and then we help them scale conversion optimization programs. If you're already doing it and you're ready to scale them up and be more operationally effective, those are kind of 2 places we can help. We do that by offering 3 things. We have a software platform. It includes an A/B testing tool, but it's also integrated with the top A/B testing tools in the space. So we have an Optimizely integration. We're building our Target and Maximizer integrations, Visual Website Optimizer, and then we're adding more. That tool not only gives you the tool to test, but it gives you a platform for managing your testing roadmap, scoring and prioritizing things in your roadmap, collaborating with your team on test requirements, and then building an aggregate repository of all your test results. So it's sort of a centralized hub for all your testing activity, layered right on top of your testing tool. That's the first thing we have. The second product we have at Experiment Engine is something called Experiment Engine On Demand. It gives teams on-demand access to designers, developers, copywriters, and strategists to help execute their testing program. So has anybody used something like Optimizely before? And they claim it's like a WYSIWYG drag and drop magic machine, and it's really not. So what we do is we take you away from like a WYSIWYG editor, and we call it a what you want is what you get editor, which is basically you describe what you want in an experiment engine, and an expert developer will design and develop and QA it for you and push it into your testing tool. So it makes teams a lot more effective at running tests because they can essentially say, I want to test an exit intent modal for people in Orlando that tell them to download my app because I know they're next to Disneyland. And they can never build that in Optimizely. They can just describe it, it gets developed and QA'd by somebody on our team, pushed into their tool and tested. And then the third piece we have is our client services team. Louise is on our client services team. So this is our team of conversion rate optimizer experts who can help kind of strategize with you, build your testing roadmap, and operationally run your testing program for you if you need. So those are kind of 3 things we do. We work with some pretty cool companies. E-commerce, SaaS, media, lead gen are our big areas. And so we can help you build your testing program. So that's what we do.
So it's SaaS done for you and consulting with
Yeah, the consulting's probably,
hand-holding kind of.
yeah, the consulting is a smaller piece of kind of what Experiment Engine does, what's available for teams, like usually ones that are getting started with programs. It's all delivered through technology. Our platform's super cool. app.experimentengine.com/signup.
You didn't answer the third one.
And then the third one, oh, yeah, is it related? Or, okay, I'll answer the related question and then I'll go to what I need.
I was gonna say, who is your perfect
Customer.
Yes.
My perfect customer is probably a customer that has at least 100,000 visitors per month or more, probably at least $10 million in revenue or more, already doing A/B testing, wants to scale it up. Or companies that are slightly below that, maybe in the 20 to 50,000 visitors per month range, who have not done A/B testing and want to start it. So those are kind of the 2 groups. E-commerce is really good. Lead gen we're very, very good at. Media we're good at. And then SaaS is harder, but we have some SaaS customers. Yeah. And what you guys can do for me. So we are always hiring. We're probably going to be hiring in client success soon. So any people that are CRO experts or really great account managers, data-driven people, please introduce me to. And then clients. So those are kind of our, at a high level, our client profiles. We work with some really great customers. We always triple testing velocity. So we always take you from 1 test a month to 3 or 4 tests a month, or from 50 tests a month to 150 tests a month. So we have a lot of scale available in our testing programs. We do a really good job with them. So. And if you're running testing, sign up for Experiment Engine. We have a free product. It's that workflow management piece. So if you need to build a testing roadmap, score it, prioritize it, no matter what testing tool you are, you should sign up for our free platform.
How long is your typical sales cycle?
It's about, for a full service, it's about 60 days.
But you probably get some people that sign up pretty quick.
Yeah, so for our like SaaS product, it's like self-service onboarding. If somebody like Honest Company is coming to like scale their testing program, or if we're working with somebody to do like 50 tests a month, it just takes a while to do that. We do, if you're interested in the full service, we do a free test as a proof of concept. So if there's something amazing that you want to test and you've never been able to, we'll build it for you, so you can experience Experiment Engine on demand. Yes.
Firstly, thank you. That was really interesting. I'm reading Carl Anderson's How to Create a Data-Driven Organization at the minute. So it's nice to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Those
It's real
principles in
tough.
practice. It's true. It happens out there. So that was kind of reassuring to me. Couple of questions. The first one was you spoke about the potential for saving a little bit in terms of when you were saying doing a website redesign.
Yep.
And then finding out that either it doesn't increase or it actually drops your conversion. And so how can you save money up front without having to do those redesign costs? Because all of that stuff has to be done in order to test
To
it.
validate,
So
yeah.
how
So
does that work?
we do a process, what we call like a data-driven redesign. So what we want to do is you have this long-term vision for your site, right? You have this beautiful new site that you think is going to be so much better. What we'll do is pick like the key themes out of that site and test smaller pieces of it. And so actually testing can be a lot cheaper than building. And so especially if you work with somebody like Experiment Engine that's very efficient at testing, And you can just validate you should have hypotheses behind your designs. So just doing a lighter weight validation of a design can really save you a lot. Like a good example of this is I won't even say, does anybody work there? A lot of teams invest in a reviews tool. So a lot of e-commerce sites invest they're very expensive in a reviews tool. And they never actually validate, do our customers care about reviews? So we have a customer, they sell t-shirts. Kind of like every t-shirt is the same except for the design. They're paying thousands and thousands of dollars a month because they decided to put reviews on their site because they thought, well, everybody puts reviews on their site. No duh, of course I should do this. And we took it off and it actually made conversion rate better. And so like it's things like that where you're like, I could have avoided investing in the big thing by just testing a little bit up front. And the thing people don't realize about the test is it doesn't have to reflect true reality of what the final product's going to look like. Actually, the origin story of Experiment Engine was my co-founder was working on a startup, and he just wanted to know, should I invest in social sharing? Like, should I integrate social sharing of all my products on my website? And instead of getting a developer to come in and build a social sharing widget or installing one or paying for one or whatever, all he wanted to do was like put a fake button that was like a Facebook icon and see if people clicked it. And so if he launched it, put the button there and 0 people clicked it, then he didn't invest in building out this feature. And so you can do these sort of like, and the problem was he was trying to use Optimizely and he couldn't figure it out and he made the button really ugly. And he called me, it took me 17 seconds and he was like, we should build a product that can do this. But like your test doesn't always have to be real. Sometimes it can be an email form to nowhere. I've known so many startups that have tested just like, will people click my email submit button? I don't even care if I capture the email. Like, will people even click it? So you have to get your mind out of like, this has to be production ready, perfect, ready to go to validate your hypothesis. Obviously there's some real business risk if you're running a real business to not capturing emails and things like that. But you can definitely like test in a more lightweight way. Yeah.
And one other question as well is, you spoke about how many, I think you said like 70% of tests actually
Fail.
have a negative impact.
Yeah.
Or, 90% took it to flat or something. So
Yeah.
For a business, I work in a contracting business,
Yep.
solar contracting. We get a lot of people that will look at the website
Mhm.
and then they'll pick up the phone.
Yep.
Now, how do you quantify or how do you deal with the hippos in the room that
Yeah.
say, it doesn't matter, it'll look better. If it's only 5% worse, it's still better because of all of those folks that you won't,
Yeah.
We may well increase the call volumes and things like that. So off the back.
So I think you have 2 problems. One is doing a conversion rate optimization program where your conversion is either offline or is part of a very long sales cycle, which is why SaaS is hard. So it's almost impossible for smaller companies to do, like just being completely frank. Very large lead gen companies have built a lot of tracking technology that can track what test a call was in. They can show a different number for the version A versus the version B and then track the conversion rate. So that's how very sophisticated teams solve the offline tracking or the like pipe it into Salesforce is another way like sales teams do it. That's one question. The hippo question is a very, very complicated one. And one where I truly feel this is why I say it. You cannot kill them. Like Louise has worked for us for a year. I've done a lot of tests. We've worked with a lot of clients. I've never convinced somebody to not or to test something. I've never been like, no, just trust me by sheer will of ego and like razzle dazzle, been like, just do it, and they like feel good about it. And they're like just raw trying to convince somebody to do something. Maybe it's just I'm not charismatic enough. It's just not effective given that it's 70% are flat and like 20% lose and 10%. It's just a no-win proposition. So what you have to do is pick your battles with your hippos really, really decisively. And so what you need to know is how big of an investment is it going to be? What's the downside risk? And should I save this ammo for later? And so if your boss is telling you, nope, this is perfect and I love it so much, and you can say, awesome, I love it too, let's just test it so we can put some dollars behind it, that's one way you can do it. But the other thing is you might just want to wait till there's actually an opportunity to build something that either is very, very expensive or can really meaningfully impact your business and use your sort of ammunition there to run a test. The worst thing you can do is like spend your political capital on a test that's probably gonna lose. So in experiment engines, like trick of the trade, our first test, we always run something people want. Always. We're like, what have you always wanted to test? Or what have you always wanted to do? Because win, lose, or flat, they always find it interesting. If we come in and we're like, you should test this, like give them medicine, they're like, I don't want to, and then it loses, and they're like, I told you, you're dumb. So like, honestly, so same way with your bosses, like, find something that they want to know about. Find something that they're curious or they have ego around, and test on that. Don't waste it on stuff that like trying to convince them to take their medicine. It never works. Or take charisma lessons. Yeah. Yeah?
Let's think about stealth testing. So I said earlier we do usability
Mhm.
testing, and the hidden secret with all of our clients is they're not buying us to make their websites more usable. They're buying us to stop arguments in the hippo room.
Yep.
Because there's a boardroom where people have attitudes like, I've been a physician for this long, I'm perfect, I
Yep.
have all knowledge of the universe, and you should do this. They take it in there to kind of stop all the political capital, and that's what
Yeah.
works. But what do you think about people doing stealth A/B testing where they go find a few things that they know could be better, and then go do it and show the data later and say, we did some testing, look at the results. Is that dangerous because you could get them addicted to immediate results?
I think it's important not to present only positive things. So I think it's important if you do that to present the full suite of potential results. So go out and say we tested 10 things and we found 2 things that were really important, 7 things that didn't matter at all, and 1 thing that really bombed our conversion rate, and that 1 thing is actually the most important thing because that's like the most sensitive piece. And if you present this array of information and you say, hey, we went and found out all this data, the same with like the kind of research you do, I think. It's very similar. You say, I went and found out all this information for you. It gives people a better sense of like that twofer effect. It's not just about the gain, it's about the information and making that just as valuable as the gain.
So if you're going to do stealth testing,
Be
be comprehensive.
comprehensive. Don't just do one.
Okay.
1 test is the worst thing that you can do. Because I give this other presentation, and it's like if the success of your testing program is always judged on the last test you ran, you're gonna feel bad a lot. And so what you need to do is actually look at it as a program, and maybe that's a project. Maybe you say over a quarter we did all these tests and this is what we found out. But don't say we did this one and this is what we found out and it was a winner, because they're gonna expect that next time. Or don't say we did this one and it lost because you're gonna say testing is stupid. Do a suite of testing, find out a range of information and present that. Yeah.
You mentioned like a client who has hundreds of tests a month, and they're testing like if I make the headline bold, if I underline it, whatever.
Yeah.
To what extent does that build like a bank of learning that they then apply to the next campaign, Or
Yeah.
is it like, okay, you have to test all these things again in isolation because various things are different?
No, they use that to build sort of an iterative design process. So it stacks on top of each other, and they'll try to take learnings from one page and test it across multiple pages. But they don't always presume that all those pages are going to perform the same. So this client has a whole bunch of landing pages, and those landing pages are by state. So they have Texas and Oklahoma and all this stuff. And they'll test a lot on Texas, and they'll find a whole bunch of stuff. And then they'll use that to figure out what's the aggregate design that they need to test across all of them. And then every 6 months they baseline against what the original was to make sure that they're still on track. So I always say integrate it into an evolutionary design. Nobody wants a Frankenstein. Nobody wants a red headline works really well and a purple call to action works really well. And this picture of nobody wants their site to look terrible. So you have to be
What if that's the best?
reasonable. If it's best for me, I'd be like, do it. I don't care. Yeah, I'm very pragmatic about it. But our goal is to never make something atrocious. So you have to take it into the context of what you're willing to do for your brand, what you're willing to push on your user experience. There are some lead gen and affiliate sites that are make me money, I don't care, it can look as ugly as it needs to look. And then there's the honest company where you do not mess with their brand. You do not make anything less than Jessica Alba gorgeous. So there's a spectrum of tolerance for that, but you have to know where you are on that spectrum. It's fun. Those are the best programs to run 100 tests a month. It's crazy. So this is, anybody else? Any questions? I'll be around.
I want to share.
Yeah.
So
This is my contact information.
Yeah. So when we had Pep speak here, I think it was last month, instead of just allowing the crowd ask, I'm sure Louis, you've heard this presentation or things like it multiple times. I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask a question, because last month, I had Alex that works with PEP, and I said, ask a question, and he's like, man, I've actually heard this presentation like 25 times. I was like, what's a question that
People wouldn't think about.
yeah, aren't thinking about? And what he said is, it's amazing how often like Pep spends at least 50% of his time dealing with hippos. Like, that's pretty much what he does.
Yeah.
And so I asked, Pep ended up talking for a few minutes about how, more strategies on how he deals with that. So I wanted to have you ask a
Come on,
question.
Louise.
Thanks, David. So I bug Claire with questions every day, guys. Literally, I need her help to run everything.
You don't have a question?
I do. I totally have a question.
Okay.
So, diminishing returns.
Yep.
So how do you prevent that from happening, and how do you get people excited again after they're testing for a year and
Yeah.
9 months through testing, you didn't get a win? How did you stay motivated? How did you get your team to stay motivated?
You take them to an incredibly expensive Uchi dinner when it wins. Like, just ball so hard. Yeah, I mean, you really have to. It's really. That's what we did. It was like, throw down sake for everybody. It's very, very, very hard because you really just can't predict winners, and it's even harder for someone like Pep or somebody like Louise, who has to get on a phone with a client that's paying us money and be like, yeah, you lost and we expected it. And that's part of the game. And so I think there's two things. You really have to level set expectations. And I think it's been so hard for teams to level set expectations about performance of CRO because there's been no real aggregate performance data about it. So I only knew in theory that at the company I worked at, we had a 10% win rate. And I only knew people that I was friends with had like a 10 or 15% conversion rate. Or like here that Netflix says in Forbes, only 10% of their tests win. Like you have this anecdotal data, but you really don't have hard analysis on what testing programs look like. So that's something the Experiment Engine is investing in heavily. We track tens of thousands of tests every year. We track what people are testing across the web. And we really have gotten to these like very definitive numbers of 10% win, 70% like lose, or 70% were flat and 20% lose. That's 100%. I was like, oh my gosh, I did this wrong. No, that's right. That's right. I'm good. And so, one, taking industry level data back and saying like, this is just what you should expect, and level setting expectations good. Two, continually doing a expected value calculation on your testing program is really important. So what you can say to a client or to your boss is say, yeah, we've had 10 in a row that have lost, and then we had one winner that made us $3 million, and then we had 10 in a row that lost, but we're still like 4x ROI on this program overall. So given that in the next 20 tests, we get another winner that's half as good as the last one we had, we're gonna still be net positive, and this is like an overall good investment of your program, and then comparing that to the ROI of other ways you can spend that money is the most intellectually honest way to know if you can continue to test. I mean, there are certainly teams where I'm like, you just need to stop. It's just not a good use of your money. That's very rare. More often than not, it just emotionally feels bad and financially makes a lot of sense. And so baselining yourself against actual industry data, doing a expected value calculation so you continually know your rolling ROI on the program, and then really like baller style celebrating successes is what makes people feel really good about the program.
Sorry if you mentioned this
Yeah.
before, but it's slipped my mind. When it comes to the ROI, is that something that you offer up as a formula or some sort? If you take on a client that you're like, okay, these are the 10 things you need to be factoring in to be working out your ROI for this, that other people may well overlook certain factors.
Yeah, so it's technology cost, services cost, people cost are typically the costs that go into it. And then you take your testing velocity, your win rate, and your average list from your tests. I can show you later. I have a deck that does it. And you calculate that on kind of a rolling basis. So you really can't do it until you have about 10 tests in your belt where you have the numbers. But that's how we do it from an ROI perspective. And then with lifts, in terms of projecting how much money a test made you, We don't just say, hey, now your business is 15% better. That's never true. What we say is, just to your question, like, has our site gotten perfect, and will it always stay that way now that we've tested it to this point? What we often find is you'll get a bump from a test, and then you'll see this like sort of diminishing curve of the test results month over month. As new visitor types come in, as stuff and your conversion rate kind of trends back down a little bit. That happens less if you're really statistically rigorous with your test results, but it happens. And so what we do is a decay model on your expected return for a test. So say a test increases your conversion rate 15% during the test. How we calculate what that's going to make you is we cut that in half. So we expect to see 7% in the real world, and we decay it quarter over quarter. So we say you'll see 7% lift in the first quarter, 5% lift in the second quarter, 3% lift in the fourth, then 1% in the last quarter, assuming that like lift goes away after a year, and that you always have to be testing to sort of continually bump up your conversion rate. So that's how we think about it. And we do that on your projected month over month traffic for the next year. So we keep into account seasonality. It's very fun. It's got a spreadsheet.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Give it up.
So my contact information, email me.
All right.
Happy to
Well,
answer.
thanks for coming, and Wyo's back there collecting your forms, and I really would like you to, if you ended up taking notes on the back of your form, there's more here. We have some more. So thank you again, Claire. Appreciate you
Yeah.
coming. She'll be here for a little bit,
I will be
answering
here.
questions that you might have been too. Actually, if you were too bashful to ask, then just email her instead.
No, ask me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. We'll see you here next month. Good. Yeah. No.
Good to see you. Thank you. I went to I appreciate it. Take care.
You feeling one of those forms? Yeah.
traffic in the first place to do this test. And so my
Yes,
partner,
and
he's off in
we
taking
mostly
our stuff.
that we haven't been as
And so, but I felt curious to see what you were doing.
yeah, to be honest, I mean, because it was like launch and test. Yeah. Launch.
Because we
Four
have
different phases of
four
now where we have just
clients who come and take care of what we do. And then we have experts to sign up.
Yep.
And I've gone to the second site.
says, and then people just. Thank you. I didn't even know. Was that the first time you heard about it? Was that the first time you heard about it? Yeah, I had no idea what you did. Just a little bit too. It's like you just become friends with people and you're like, you're awesome. Yeah. So it's like, I only have one hotel friend. I don't know. You guys, I was like, I need to raise my fun stamina, like drinking stamina, like more like I got it now. I was like, on one day I was like, I don't have to raise. Yeah, so I stayed in the house and play low and then but I love fun. I'm just like, no, it's fun. It's just my see, I was open to it because like I didn't get to move into my I'm gonna stay at the downtown for like a couple months. Friends who got to be out of town. Yeah, and I've been together.
Page
I kind of like SoFi though. It's kind of cute. Well, we do. Yeah. Somebody from Boston used to have a street with some friends. And then what we can do is somewhere else. Maybe just wait around. Oh my gosh, nice friends. Can I hug? I'm so excited. I can't even believe like how cool it is. Well, here's the deal. Like I used to travel nonstop because I was in the cities epic people were there, different events, and I was like, before I gotta live in the city, there's epic people and stuff going on. I don't have to travel. What? Well, but it is, but like, you never want to go home because like, I lived in the city, so there wasn't like, you know what I mean? There's not the cool density. Alrighty, here. Maybe I'll see you later.
I'm leaving because it's bad
Just
note.
like
Just mess
a
everything
random
up.
thing or what?
Stay another week. Perfect. So every time we do a little like customer client success recap, I'll do like some analytics questions. We do a school game, I do this analytics pro. Can we do that? Can we do that? That'd be awesome.
Amazing. You were incredible, and I'm sorry to jump out there. I had. Oh my god. Oh my god. So you are awesome. I know you don't like software. Well, you said it was like no services. Oh, SaaS. I thought you said SaaS. Oh, SaaS. It is, yeah. So they just raised another round of $4 million. It's called Flywheel, so they do WordPress hosting. You know Flywheel? Shit, man. There you go. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
So, yeah. I like texting when I text it, like, if you never hear from me again, because I never have told you. Are you really?
That's. Yeah, I went down to the dress
Oh, how hot are you?
and it was like 4 months.
Oh my god.
We all got jobs, we
Yeah.
worked in bars.
So good. Was that
Beauty of the
did you do it yourself?
like
Yeah,
if you speak the English or
Man,
speak
I gotta get it
Portuguese, you
going.
can get a job.
Let's hang out.
I live on the west side.
Yeah, I just spent like quarter of my trip there. Exactly. For just the size and then we go out for breakfast and grab just out
We'll right
like 2
there.
nights.
Okay, coffee.
We're at like a small
I'm gonna,
town, like, it's not
I'm
the
gonna,
built up 7
yeah,
years.
sure.
I'm trying to sell it to her.
See, you guys aren't as passionate about fair as I was about Run the Runway, and so I'm not.
What's what?
That's true. That's
So,
true.
like, what about fair?
Insane.
Like,
Yeah.
like the value proposition of fair is like, it exists.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
she's
Land
not.
grab, land grab, right?
No, walk home, it's a lovely night.
I took one about the fact today. Yeah.
I said, get me.
So you go put your pin like in Bollywood, just outside the Austin City limits, and then you can when you send your you just go in actually.
And then they try.
That's crazy.
That's sad.
Because if you put your pin outside the city, like
But it still gets you a ride.
there's all these cars driving around the city.
Cheating the system over here.
Yeah.
Wow, where'd you hear this?
I got it.
I've done it like 3 or 4 times now.
And with Uber, you can do it too. Just
Yeah, you told me
I
that.
tried that today, but it didn't really work out.
Well,
Never go release until then.
yeah, sure. Thank you for doing this, and I think I want to tell you about the thing that's coming up this Thursday. Are you out of town? Okay. Yeah, because I'll invite you.
Yeah.
No, I'll invite you to the ones, Jason Cohen's already in, Carl White's like, Florida.
Give me heads up.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I'll invite you to the ones that I think you'll actually enjoy, not only like the because if it's peaceful and food and stuff. Is there some that like yeah, exactly. Yeah, so when I reach out to you on those,
Okay, that sounds great. I just wanted to cover some more stuff.
all right,
Thank you. It's great.
take some sandwiches or some beers, put them in your bag. You have to bring your bag. Well, no, seriously, look at all the sandwiches we have. So you want
No, I think the sandwich is not. It's because
take one
it's a
here.
gluten-free household, and so we're bringing carbs into the house.
Okay, well in that case.
And then my big trouble means I will.
Oh, yours are gluten-free. You have gluten-free beers.
Okay, I will walk out the door with gluten-free beers. I will take some.
I will definitely take those.
Those are popular.
That's a fair trade.
Those are popular in my house. Perfect. Oh, that's not gonna make my walk home hard
But
at
you,
all.
You want to walk?
I do.
Fair exists.
No, I wanna walk. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be
you need to be more passionate about fair.
I
Yeah,
do.
you
I do.
What? You're just like.
You know, I hear what you're saying, because like when Lawless existed, I was like, you know, I'm doing it, like so passionate.
I just wanted to make sure. I was thinking like, so I
Because
guess.
You are not doing it.
I don't know, I mean like, so I said,
it's here.
It's there.
Kind of.
launched.
I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what it is more.
Because Uber, if I
And I mean,
walk down
that's.
the
Like in other
And
words.
that's
Yes,
like
you're right. You're right. Fair takes like 12 minutes. And
Like,
There
it's
you
such
go.
a high
It's like a
level
comment
launch.
yeah, and everybody's like,
So boom,
boom.
business launch.
They're here.
Because otherwise it's.
I miss you so much.
just walk this way.
Oh, yeah, no.
Well,
Yeah, it's like,
over
yeah,
here.
it's not validation.
Maybe.
Yeah, but not
Where's
just
that?
marketing it.
Oh, is it the best? The best?
Alright, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good I know how to explain it now.
It's working.
Put it this way, Ryan Holiday